it's a small percentage who were promiscuous. They're geared that way. They're wired that way. They're also usually the most aggressive. We needed them to be fighters. However, that was not the preponderance of men who acted that way. Most men wanted to find a woman, wanted to cherish her, wanted to have children, wanted to provide for her.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still feel like that doesn't really answer what would be an effective way to combat that. I still don't know what that would be.
My thing that I think the effective way to combat that is, number one, to raise awareness so that women can understand what they're being presented with.
Well, wouldn't that be effective through feminism? That's my point.
Why would that be effective through feminism? Feminism is teaching the exact opposite.
Well, I'm saying you hijack the movement and you change it. The movement has changed so much through time that
what do you mean,
can
though?
just say,
what do you mean by hijack the movement? What should the new messaging of the new feminist movement be?
Well, I mean, I think that we understand that the sexual revolution and women having casual sex, it's been painted as, as beneficial. So if you reframe
you understand that, and
right,
you come from a Catholic background,
right, yes.
but you cannot think that that is what most women are thinking. They're not thinking that at all.
Right, yeah. No, you're right. That's why I'm saying it would be more effective to communicate that through saying, I'm on your side, I feel like it's just not really very effective to communicate that through saying, feminism gives a really good framework for saying, I support women's liberation, and I think real women's liberation is
liberation from what?
From this, things like the sexual revolution.
Right.
Okay, but what was the original goal?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can say,
when you ask a woman what's feminism liberating you from, she'll say the evil patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and right? I mean, would you say that it's sort of a patriarchy that women are under, that men are using women for just sex and no marriage? I think
women
or
are
anything?
there's some women that are complicit in that. Like, for example, Gloria Steinem was part of that. Frankly, I think it's because she was ugly and nobody liked her, and then she wanted to go ahead and reduce other women to her competitive level because she could never compete with a truly beautiful and intelligent woman. So she decided to reduce everybody's worth by doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
so there's plenty of women, and I know older women who go through the feminist thing realize they're miserable. They're in their 40s. They're childless. They don't have kids, which I'm not saying every woman needs to do that, but a lot of women will realize that they've missed something, and then instead of owning to their mistakes and teaching younger girls to not go that way, they enroll them in the same behavior, and that is evil. And I don't think women should do that.
No, I completely
agree. Taking
with
it out of an ideology of it has to be feminism, it has to be some movement. Because I think if you really focus more on an overall morality, and that can be your focus, but we don't want to do that, right? There's been a wave of we don't want a religion, right? America is getting increasingly secularized. Yes. And so then when we want to create morals, we have to then hide behind a political ideology or like feminism or communism or an ism, because we can't align to get our morals, because we can't align with a religious a religion. And so then everyone's confused, and so that's why it's but now if I'm not a feminist, I'm anti-woman, and there's all this kind of weight behind either being a feminist or not being a feminist, and that's where now politics has tried to take the role of what religion used to be in our society, and I think that's where it's getting so detrimental.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $200. Conspiracy theory girl, can we talk about Disney and the princess effect? How about Rockefeller and the public school system? So many control mechanisms, so little patriarchy.
I'm not familiar with Disney and the princess effect, but I am familiar with Rockefeller, the public school system, and the way they took over the medical system, and pretty much they are advancing a lot of control mechanisms that way, because they put people in schools and indoctrinate them from a young age with these thoughts. But the reason I don't think that it presents well to say I'm a feminist is because, number one, feminism already has such a clear meaning and definition for people.
Does it?
It really doesn't.
Does.
But based on what you guys say about feminism, it doesn't, because you say things that are completely at odds with what I hear actual people my age who are in college, what they think about it. It doesn't seem like you're really
what do people your age think about feminism?
They don't think that it's a conspiracy being, like an anti-natalist, satanic conspiracy. I think you might have a little something going on. But, I think that's
Listen,
right.
Hold on.
No.
You got to qualify that statement a little bit.
She's calling me crazy, even though it's well documented that Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent.
I back you up, girl. I think you have a little conspiracy mind minded thing going on where you're looking
Right.
for a conspiracy in everything.
No, I just am informed and educated, and I'm not arrogant
Well,
enough
I
to
c-
assume that my ignorance means that somebody else is crazy.
I
But
mean,
that
I
could
can
be you
also
if you'd
say
like.
I'm informed and educated, and we
Right.
can go back and forth saying that forever.
Well, so do you know then that what she's saying about Gloria Steinem is not only correct, but that through the Congress for Cultural Freedom in the 60s and 70s, the CIA was pushing feminism through like 40 different publications around the world. They sent, people to
I mean,
festivals.
so what if Gloria Steinem was like a CIA operative? Gloria Steinem's not the only feminist
no, I'm
in
saying
the world.
it's not just her. I'm saying
I'm
the
not
Congress for Cultural Freedom, which was a widespread CIA program that went around the world in dozens of countries and had hundreds of magazines, newspaper outlets, all pushing feminism. This was not just like one lady. This was like a broad effort during the Cold War to kind of differentiate Western liberal values from Russia. So they pushed feminism and the sexual
I
revolution.
mean, are you
as part
anti
of
like
this.
classical liberalism and
Yes,
Western
I
liberal values?
absolutely am,
Okay,
yeah.
but you're also anti-communist. I'm very curious maybe that's off topic, but
You can be both.
you can be both communist and
You can be
liberal?
against communism and against Western liberalism.
I don't mean liberalism in like liberal versus
Classical
conservative. Yeah.
liberalism,
You're-
which is
you're
the
against
American
that?
founding.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm against that.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
sorry. Go
oh
ahead.
no, you go for it.
I was just gonna say that I believe that you guys can be completely correct. Like everything you're saying is correct, and how feminism is a psyop. Just I'm saying psyop back. I feel like that's the best.
No, I understand what you're
way.
saying. I think I just disagree that would be the best way. That's all.
I just don't see a better route because I have the same experience. I've never had any friends who are genuine like feminists who read literature say that they're pro casual sex and that it's really healthy for women to do that. I've never ever heard that ever.
Well, here's what you guys need to understand is that feminism is anything that pushes back against patriarchy and moves toward egalitarianism. So if you think the sexes are equal, we should all have equal rights, so we can get into rights and what you think that all means, but anybody who is saying patriarchy is bad is feminist, whether they identify or know that or not. So if you think that just like, we have to push for women to be equal with men and women have been historically oppressed, that's all feminism, whether you think it is or not.
Well, for like egalitarianism and stuff, from my understanding, you believe that egalitarianism means that men and women are just on equal planes, or
It means that they should have like equal rights and equality of, some people would say equality of outcome, some people would say equality of opportunity. Doesn't really
yeah, but it's
matter
on
to
an
me.
equality of outcome now, is
right,
what they mean
yeah.
by it.
let me think. I have to think. I'm sorry.
I just don't think that you guys will ever successfully convince, or whatever movement or not movement you want to be a part of, will ever successfully convince the female population that they should not at least
I agree
fight
with you,
for,
which is why.
Fight for what? Sorry, continue.
fight
Yeah.
for egalitarianism, whatever
Right.
that means to them.
What is
You'll
it
never
that women
convince
don't have
women to
now?
not- yeah.
What is it that women don't have now that men have?
I'm not saying that there is an imbalance currently or isn't. I'm saying that I don't think
But do you
will
understand
ever,
the problem? We'll never be able to convince women to not fight for something that they already have.
If they already have it, then what about this problem you're talking about where women are allowing men to mistreat them? And
Correct. That is
Because women, the rates of like depression among women are so unhappy, and it's gone like there's a direct correlation with levels of unhappiness of women documented.
Okay, so it
and-
sounds like women have something that men don't have, which you're claiming is not true.
but hold on a second. No. Don't do that. You're shifting tides. First of all, you said that women that you'll never be able to stop. You'll never be able to convince women to stop fighting for equal rights. And I said, what is it that we don't have that men have in that department? Now, what she's pointing out is a consequence of that very fight, because the supposed
Really?
well, it's a consequence of the feminism.
How can you say that? There's a ton of
because
correlates.
because it correlates directly with the rise of the movement.
But it also correlates with time passing. It correlates with a bunch
Correct.
of 9/11. You could blame it on
Correlation
a bunch
does
of
not-
random things.
70s? Do you know what year 9/11 happened?
Well, you didn't mention the 70s. I'm saying you could. I'm saying you could literally point to any random event that happened throughout history and say, well, this is why women started becoming
You're
unhappy.
100% correct. The correlation does not equal causation. However, there is strong connection between these things that we see women who continue along the path that so quote unquote feminism would get you to. By the way, the extreme of feminism, because I did study feminism, is a lesbian separatist feminism in which they want to live on an island away from men, use them for their semen, only keep the female. I'm not kidding. This is a real thing. You
Now,
guys can
I'm
look it up.
familiar with lesbian separatism.
You can look it up.
I'm familiar with
My
female
issue
separatism.
is, number one, I don't think men and women should be at each other's throats, and this goes for the right-wing movement too, which is a little bit of your podcast, where they set
We'll get into that.
they set men up to see women as these evil, like, manipulative creatures, and then women are set up to see men as these, like, evil, tyrannical, power-hungry creatures. How there are both of these things within the population. I've had experience with both of them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but however, to have a movement that continually tells women this is what they want from you sets us up to be unhappy, because I believe we are made to be in partnership with the other sex and not at war with them.
I think my problem with just what you're saying in general is I think we're diagnosing the same issue. But
Not McKin Money Offer Podcast donated $200. Please redirect the conversation to the left-hand corner of the table. I have a really high run on the number of likes for this show. Shut up, leptonic woman in black.
Make me, bitch.
anyway, so I was just saying, I think that we have the same, like, we're diagnosing the same problem. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure.
I'm saying that my problem is that I think that men are taking advantage of women via casual sex in the sexual revolution.
Correct. I also think men themselves are a victim of this propaganda.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I'm just saying I don't see an effective solution for it other than what I've proposed, and I don't see
which
you
is
giving
hijacking
one.
feminine. I did give one. I said I believe that we should approach women with compassion, raise their consciousness so they can truly understand the problem.
How? What would be the way to do that?
Well, this is one way. Education, speaking up.
They could read my book and find out the truth about how all of this went down, and that it wasn't this grassroots movement where women looked around in the 1800s and went, oh my God, we're oppressed. We have to march in the streets until we have voting rights and bank accounts. And that it was just this thing that's time had come, because it's complete bullshit. It's not true, and that's not how it happened. It was an astroturf movement from the beginning, from the 1700s, or even further back if you want to go there. So this idea that there is even such a thing as, like, oh, we can have women's rights and egalitarianism only at the behest of the men who are going to enforce it for you anyway.
Well,
so like, I think if you just get through to women about some of these things, it will help. But also, do we really want to, like, depend on turning the opinion of women toward how things ought to be?
Well, I think
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm only referring to the sexual revolution. Like, I'm not talking necessarily about egalitarianism or anything. I mean, you say we approach women with compassion.
Correct.
And I mean, I think the women who are reading your book are probably already agree with you.
Correct.
And,
Me?
yeah.
No. I get messages every single day from women around the world who thought they were picking it up to debunk it. I'm going to prove this bitch wrong. And then they read and they go, shit. They check the source material and they're like, damn, she's right. And then it changes their mind.
Well, I'm sure people can be, I'm sure that a lot of people will read it and agree with you and change their minds. I'm just saying that wouldn't the most effective way to change people's minds who are already feminists be telling women you are being oppressed because of this same thing that we're all agreeing on?
We can tell them it's bad for them, but that doesn't mean they're going to listen, especially when they're young and the entire culture is, Leonardo
Wait, so
said,
what's
is
your
saturated
prescription?
with it.
My prescription is by basically psyoping feminism, because I mean
What do you
She
mean
wants to
by
hijack feminism and turn it.
hijack feminism?
yeah. So
Brandon Middleton donated $200. Feminism, gender theory, and CRT are intertwined with Marxism.
Yep.
Marxists preach the oppressor narrative. Victim mentality makes people fail and be unhappy. That's of the connection to women's unhappiness.
Thank you, Brandon P. Middleton. We have another one coming in, so I'm just going to preempt it here just in a sec. I appreciate it, Brandon. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And then we have, Law Paladins. I'll just read it. We have, your shirt is arguing with the wrong person. The only smart woman, other than Miss Wilson, I've seen on this podcast in the past year. She should direct her rage elsewhere. I don't. Are
She's talking about you, pink shirt.
She's rage. It's the rage of the pink shirt.
wait, am I raging right now?
I don't think so.
We do have David Treziak, who says, "Let's dance. You were good last time. Ironic shirt, meaning for debate. or double entendre for dating show, Grabbing My Tin Hat Now. Julia Child was in CIA and she could make a great pie too. Okay.
It's a true story.
I'm very surprised to receive a nice comment. Thank
There
you.
you go. Yeah, see, that's
you.
not all bad. You've been scowling for the past 20 minutes. Do you have input on this?
Me?
Yeah, you've been like,
Oh
It
no,
seemed-
I've just been like honestly like watching
okay.
back and forth.
oh, okay.
I just like I kind of honestly got a little lost in the sauce on what they were talking about because I couldn't tell whether or not at first I thought they were saying like, oh, they're feminists, but then I realized that they were saying they're not feminists. And so I don't know, to me feminism like is just like equality. That's it. Like just women and men being
Do you think
equal.
it's possible for women to be equal with men? And what do you think equality is?
I do. I think that both genders definitely like bring different things to the table, you know,
Well,
like
sure.
you know,
But what do you mean by equality? Like, what would be an example?
like equal
of-
pay and stuff if they have the same jobs and everything, like equal pay, you know.
Okay.
Equal rights.
Equal rights. Okay, and then if women have equal rights with men and they have the same opportunities, does that mean they should have the same responsibility? Should you have the same responsibility and authority to go with your rights?
Well, I mean, I think any adult should, you know. Like I don't think it's whether you're a man or like a woman.
So
I think if you're an adult, you should have responsibility and for yourself in general as a person.
Wait, Nick, hold on. Nick, are we at risk of getting a nip slip from this chick?
I don't. My nip is in the border.
Do you have
So.
pasties or anything you can put on?
No, we've talked about this. I definitely like.
What do you mean we talked about this?
Like
We
he
did not.
asked me if I had pasties, and I said,
Nick, pull up the chat because they've been probably paying more attention than me. So hold on, gotta stop the show. Pull up the chat, please. Chat it's hard for me to tell. I'm paying attention to the conversation. This TV show. It's hard for me. TV. It's hard for me to tell. Are we at risk of getting a fucking nip slip from this chick? One in the chat if it looks risky, because otherwise you're gonna have to put on your jacket or some shit. I've been looking. It's way too fucking close.
Hey, would you stop oppressing her with your toxic masculinity, please?
I said, no, she's fine.
See, if these guys were smart, they would say,